Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the opening of the 2020 BSP Expo. I'm Professor Claudio de Magalhaes. I'm the head of the Bartlett School of Planning, and I'm very happy to have you joined us for this event. And I only wish we were doing it in person in Bloomsbury, either in our premises in Central House or in the main UCL building, the Wilkins building, the one behind me, an exciting virtual version of which is housed in the Expo this year. The BSP Expo, now in its fourth year, is an annual celebration of student achievements across the Bartlett School of Planning. It's an opportunity for current and former staff members and students, alongside the school's many friends and partners, to review some of the past year's projects from undergraduate and postgraduate programs, and also examples of research being undertaken within the school's PhD community and by members of staff and collaborators. This year, the BSP Expo takes on the even more important role of allowing a community of students and academics to communicate with our friends and partners all over the world, in spite of the restrictions imposed by the global pandemic, and share what we have done over the last 12 months. We hope to show that despite the constraints and difficulties to education and research that the pandemic has posed, we are here and producing exciting, challenging, and stimulating work. BSP is one of the largest and most diverse planning schools in the UK, with more than 50 members of staff, plus a similarly large group of honorary and visiting colleagues, as well as a great many contributing practitioners from a range of industry sectors, and more than 600 students from the UK and overseas. Undergraduates follow programs in urban planning and real estate, urban planning design and management, or urban studies. Our postgraduate taught students, the MSc, MPlan, and MRes students, are enrolled on programs focusing on spatial planning, city planning, international planning, urban regeneration, urban design, housing, transport, infrastructure planning, sustainable urbanism, and real estate. The majority of our programs are accredited by the Royal Town Planning Institute and the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, both of which are important partners for the school. All those more than 600 students at BSP produce a range of outputs as part of their studies, from shorter essays and reviews to larger projects and dissertations. Team-based design and planning projects also form a core component of student work, and many examples of these are showcased in the Expo. Added to this array of taught programs is the work of our 60-plus PhD students, each of whom aims to make an original contribution to knowledge through individual research undertaking over at least 3 years. These students work closely with academic supervisors on projects that take them to different parts of the world or keep them here in London, studying the many urban challenges that this city will face in the decades ahead, from housing issues to climate change to governance and inclusion. A research degree is one of the first steps in what often evolves into a longer academic career. Research students frequently work closely with our full-time and visiting staff members, developing and delivering as postgraduate teaching assistants many of the modules showcased in the Expo. The aim of the Expo is to provide a record of this year's work. It offers, however, just a glimpse of the vast array of work that students on our diverse programs produce and our academic and contributors supervise. Despite challenging circumstances, our students continue to produce work that make us proud, and we congratulate them wholeheartedly. We are also grateful for the many contributors and many contributions that our friends and partners have done over the years. The Expo provides an opportunity to celebrate all that and say thank you to everyone who worked so hard to achieve BSP continuing success. Once again, on behalf of the school, I thank everyone who has made this Expo possible, from the team who organized it to the students who did the work you will see, and to the many colleagues and contributors who guided them through it. And I hope you all enjoy it. I now will invite the Dean of the Barclay faculty, Professor Christoph Lindner, to say his welcome message. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudio, and good evening, everyone. I'm really honored to be able to congratulate you on this exposition of student work. And I'm really excited actually to be here and to be able to be part of seeing and experiencing that work. The Bartlett School of Planning has a distinguished, impactful, transformative impact on the design and planning of cities and communities that is really profound. And we can see that in the student work that is being shared here tonight. I'm particularly impressed by the way in which moving to the digital online version of the Expo, the School of Planning has recreated the experience of being immersed in the Wilkinson building. And I think it's an interesting digital variation on placemaking. And it's a wonderful way to move through that building digitally and have the poster experience of reading, studying, experiencing research and insight in the way that we're used to when we meet in person. Now, the thing I suppose I really want to say is that this moment is important. The Expo is important because here we don't just get to celebrate and recognize and give visibility to the work of our very talented students. I think there's also something else going on, because what we get to do, if we look carefully at the student work and take it in and spend time engaging with it, what we're seeing is the future of planning. We're seeing what the next generation of planners may want to do, the issues they will want to engage, the solutions, the approaches and methodologies they will use. And that is incredibly valuable. I think it's more valuable than ever now as we work through the pandemic and hopefully come out the other side soon. We're going to need the talent, the fortitude, the creativity of our School of Planning students to go out into the professions, out into the world, and put ideas into practice. And among those ideas, I do think there is a shared commitment amongst our student community as well as our staff, right across the School of Planning, a shared commitment to the urgent issues of today, to the climate crisis and what we can do about it, to issues of inequality in our cities and communities and how we can reduce that going forward, to issues of human health and well-being, and the list goes on. So I want to enjoy, congratulate, celebrate our students for their work. And I also want to invite us to spend some serious time taking in that work and understanding the very powerful insights that they share from the undergraduate work all the way through to the postgraduate and PhD research. So thank you so much for sharing that work with us. I hope everybody does enjoy the immersive digital experience of the virtual Wilkinson building. And I'm very pleased now to hand over the mic to my colleague, Valentina, who is curator of the Expo.
Thank you, Christoph, and hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome you to the Bartlett School of Planning Expo 2020 virtual edition. This is our fourth Expo, and with our centenary show in 2014, our fifth major exhibition at the Bartlett School of Planning. When it became clear that we were not going to be able to host our regular live event in June, I was very keen that we could somehow still celebrate the student achievements across the Bartlett School of Planning, not only by displaying some of the past year's projects from undergraduates, postgraduate, and examples of research, but also to create a virtual space where our community of students and academics could meet and interact in spite of the restrictions imposed by the pandemic. So even if this will be a very different Expo than usual, I'm grateful and proud that as with teaching and all professional services, the Bartlett School of Planning has shown a great willingness and ability to innovate in the face of a challenge. For this, I want to thank Claudio, who has trusted the Expo team to deliver this year's show, despite the fact that we had never tried anything remotely like it before. I hope we haven't disappointed, and I trust that this year's Prosecco budget can be added to next year's Expo. And of course, the Expo would have never been possible without the help and support of my fellow Expo team colleagues, Vicky, Joe, and Pablo. It's been an intense few months, but I'm sure they cannot wait to do it all over again next year. Thank you also to Matt Faracci, one of our master graduates who has helped us to design and put together the Expo catalog. Without further ado, let me share my screen. Sorry. And welcome you into our virtual expo, where I will show you around while our three programs director, Ben, Jess, and Yvonne, will present their respective program and interview some of our students. The Expo fully immersive and interactive 3D virtual exhibition space has been created by B21 Art Space, who has worked closely with us over the past 5 months to deliver our vision. As you will see, we have decided to recreate the space where we usually host the physical expo at UCL, so that no matter where we are, we can all feel a bit closer to each other and to our beloved UCL campus, with the added bonus of not having to offer a sacrifice to the altar of room bookings. We look forward to hearing your feedback at the end of the tour when Pablo will answer any questions you may have. Welcome to the UCL meetings, process, and enjoy the expo. I'm introducing the first program to be presented with the undergraduate, so
Valentina, have you just handed over to me? Because we couldn't catch the audio on the last bit. I will start then. Hello, my name is Jessica Ferm. I am the director of our 3 undergraduate programs in urban planning, design and management, urban planning and real estate, and urban studies. I'm delighted to be able to showcase some of our brilliant undergraduate students' work here tonight at the Expo 2020. So I just wanted to say a few words about the undergraduate program itself before we show some of that work and speak to our students. So we have just over 200 undergraduate students now, a big bumper year this year, 90 students in the first year, 60 students in year 2 and about 50 in year 3. Approximately half our students are home or EU students and half are from elsewhere. All of our 3 programs have a common core of modules in managing and delivering and understanding urban change. 2 of our programs, Urban Planning, Design and Management and Planning and Real Estate, are accredited by the 2 professional institutes, the Royal Town Planning Institute and Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. And students specialise towards their 2nd and 3rd years on those programs. The students on urban studies have more flexibility in the 2nd and 3rd years of their degree to choose elective modules across the faculty and the university to complement the core modules taken in the department. In the 3rd year of the programme, we ask students to volunteer to take part in a 2-week work placement in industry. We have over 40 employers who take part in our work placement programme. And students also, during the course of their studies, apply for internships in industry and take part in a range of other programmes and activities across the university. We also have a study abroad programme so that some of our students in the 2nd year of their undergraduate degree study abroad at one of our international partner universities. So that includes 2 European universities, the University of Amsterdam and the Czech Technical University in Prague, and 6 further international universities across the Far East, Australia and the USA. Our undergraduate students have been instrumental in setting up and running the Bartlett Urban Planning Society. And our undergraduates have played a really strong role in this, although it's a society that crosses undergraduate and postgraduate students. It was set up in 2012. It's gone from strength to strength, providing students with social, academic and careers events and initiatives. We have our current chair of the society, Brian Go, with us here today. And I'm hoping that Brian might be able to make himself available to say a few words. Brian, are you there?
Hello, hi everyone. As Jess introduced, I'm a BOPS chair this year, and I'm currently a year 3 UPDM student. I I think admittedly, the journey this year has been much tougher, trying to foster that sense of community through online means and to provide the same level of support, if not more, to the BSP community. But that said, I think throughout all these difficult times, I've been very blessed with an enthusiastic and dedicated committee, and of course, a planning office and academic staff, which is so dedicated to providing the best for students. We have worked long and hard from summer and now into the school term to provide a few things. Some of them, I'll give some examples. There are new resource pages on our website. So students who are new, want to learn some new skills, they can go there and pick up some of this information. We've worked hard to revive our social media channels. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, they're more lively right now. We've also updated our Help Hub platform and to kickstart our blog program again. Just 2 weeks ago, we also hosted our first Careers Lab with guests from Quad, Savills, and Cushman and Wakefield. And I'm very delighted to see many of you there. We will continue to host more events like this, so we welcome all of you with open arms. I just want to end off by saying that BUPS is continually learning and growing, and we welcome suggestions, feedback, and ideas, and just feel free to contact us through any of our social media platforms. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. We now can look at some of the modules, the undergraduate modules, and I have 3, as well as Brian, I have 2 other undergraduate students here to speak to those. Fola, I wonder if you are there and might be able to say a few words about cities and social change.
Hello, I'm Fola, I'm a final year UPDM student as well. And yeah, so the Cities and Social Change module was really a chance for us to explore a bit more of urban geography and urban sociology and understand the link between social change and spatial processes. And one of the assignments was to write a feature article, which you can see, and my partner Xavier and I decided to look at chicken shops. And we wanted to explore quite a range of social issues through the lens of chicken shops. So austerity cuts, and sorry, one sec, child obesity and knife crime. And oftentimes chicken shops are kind of presented in a very negative light. They're used as a scapegoat for lots of social issues. And there are even policy measures to try and minimize the number of chicken shops near schools to really combat the child obesity issue. But we wanted to kind of shed light on the more positive side of chicken shops, highlighting their role as community infrastructure, if you like. They're spaces where young people can feel safe, where they have nowhere else to go because austerity cuts, to youth services meant that they have no safe places to be, and they really kind of form communities in chicken shops. And we kind of explored food gentrification through that as well, and how you've seen the rise of trendy chicken shops, like chicken sours and all these sorts of places where they've kind of taken an accessible and cheap form of food and turned it into something that's kind of more palatable for a middle class, mainly white population, the hipsters basically. And in these kinds of spaces, you have economic and social exclusion. So, for example, the chicken is not halal chicken, so that already excludes a certain social group. They're cashless businesses, so you can't walk in there with like a £2 coin and get a cheap meal. And that really affects the people in the local communities who have been there for a while and really formed relationships in spaces like chicken shops. And also something really interesting about chicken shops is that when you look at it from a point of gentrification, they don't really fit the narrative that we find where a new kind of business comes in and replaces a local restaurant or local shop. Because they're so ingrained in some people's communities, it's very hard to just get rid of a chicken shop, because they play a really, really important role for young people especially. And it was a really strange topic, I think, compared to what other people would have done, because no one really thinks about chicken shops to kind of be able to bring together so many social issues, but they are really, really interesting. And I encourage everyone else to kind of think a bit more about places that they go to quite frequently and kind of think about the dynamics behind these kinds of spaces.
Thank you very much, Fola. What a fantastic piece of work. It looks really enjoyable. Brian, I wonder if you might say a few words about the second year module strategic planning project. You spotted it just there.
Yes. Yep. So in this module, we had, as usual, a mixture of group and individual work. And the accumulation of all the effort was to produce a strategic plan for a large area that extended, I think, from St. John's Wood in the south all the way up to Hampstead and Cricklewood in the north. What was very interesting was how we actually based our strategic policies and principles on 4 different manifestos from this book called Unlocking Sustainable Cities by Paul Chatterton. So what my group did was we worked on using biophilic principles, and then we aimed to re-inject life through the local economy, transport, housing, social infrastructure, and the public realm. But I think more than the project itself, what stood out to me were 3 things. Firstly, we spent a lot of time actually to explore the relationships between the UK Equalities Act and the built environment. So we looked at how we could, bridge social infrastructure and what people actually needed and felt. Secondly, we also utilized a lot of data platforms and GIS tools. So again, this helped to bridge the use of technical resources and our understanding of socioeconomic issues. And lastly, what I really appreciated was an extensive set of guest lectures. So they were both academic and practice focused, and this allowed all of us to gain deeper insight into planning practice. Yeah, so overall, I did really enjoy the module a lot, and I do hope that any year 2s and 1s out there, you enjoy this as much as I did. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. And finally, we have Anastasia Gosinova, who is a recent graduate. She graduated in the summer, and she has come back to introduce a 3rd year module, Urban Design, Space and Place, to us. Thank you, Anastasia.
Hello, everyone. So in this module, there were 2 tasks that we had to come up with. The first one was basically to create a broad master plan for the Earls Court development, which recently was declined the planning permission because of the issues of the local citizens that didn't want their houses to be demolished. So we had to rethink how to approach this site completely and include these existing housing estates together and tied with the broader master plan that was proposed before that, kind of trying to rethink completely how it might work in the future. So this was for the task 1. And in the second task that each individual student had to propose, so each student was given just a small section of the master plan, which were developed in the first task. And it was a very interesting exercise where in my case, I was given the northern side of the master plan, and I had to come up with the solution of how to bring together the new business district along with the provision of new housing and retrofitting the existing housing estates. And I very much enjoyed the process and basically started from the broad strategies to design principles and then drilling down to the streets and visualizing the space in place and how it all might work together and how to create a, basically a human scale development that would work well for everyone, as well as for local residents, existing residents, and the future residents. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Anastasia. Just to say that this year, a team of our 3rd year undergraduates were finalists in the Urban Design Group's National Urban Design Awards in the student category. And they entered with a project on Poplar Connect, and the students were Paco Chan, Christine Leung, Cecilia Lam, Mampok Leung. So we're very proud of them. I wanted to finish with just speaking about some of our student achievements. That's obviously a key one. We also nominate our highest performing female student in year 1 every year for the Women in Property Awards. Last year, Tessa Tan was one of the 2 highly commended in the Southeast Regional Awards. And in the previous year, Christina Travati was a finalist in the National Awards. Our students have also been recipients of UCL Changemaker funding in the past for their work on the BSP Help Hub, and this year for a review of the urban planning and real estate programme. but I really wanted to just mention today that this year we're really proud that Anastasia Gosinova, who you've just heard speak, was the recipient of the Bartlett Faculty Medal. This is only the second time that a planning student has received this medal. It's a prestigious UCL faculty prize awarded to students who not only attain the highest academic standards, but they also demonstrate exceptional commitment to the profession and the wider life of the faculty. Our planning students were also the recipients this year of the first and second year faculty scholarships for excellence worth £3,000 each. And the very deserving winners were Sean Lee in the first year and Fola Olale, who you've also just heard speak. Anastasia and Fola, as part of their work, and this was part of their kind of profile contributing to those awards, was that they were both recipients of the very prestigious Laidlaw Research and Leadership Scholarships aligned with our department's Place Alliance project in the last couple of years. And I wondered, Anastasia and Fola, if you might say a few words about your experience working on that project and as Laidlaw scholars.
Yeah, sure. I'd like to start first by just telling a couple of words about the scholarship itself. So basically, it's a prestigious scholarship that is open to any high-performing first-year undergraduate students at UCL and also at a number of other leading UK Russell Group universities and also internationally. The program allows students to develop leadership and research skills through 2 extensive summer research projects that students usually conduct following their first and second years at university. Both research projects that I contributed to were led by the Place Alliance team, and were focused on the design quality of the housing in England and its governance. In terms of the reflections, looking back, I can say that this was a very valuable experience. First of all, it opened up an opportunity to contribute to the current debate in planning in a meaningful way, which is very rare for the undergraduate student, especially since in our program, UPTM program, we don't write a dissertation. It was also important that I not only acquired necessary research skills, but also had a real work experience as a research assistant, which definitely helped to stand out in many job interviews. And I learned to think of the current challenges that our planning system faces in a holistic way, and it definitely gave me an idea where I would like to go next in my career and professional development. And last but not least, I would like to say big thanks to the Place Alliance team. It was an absolute pleasure to work with Valentina and Valentina Giordano and Mafia Carmona and Fola as well. And I hope, and I would strongly encourage any first year student who's interested in this program, definitely apply, because as I believe the applications for this year scholarship is open by the end of November, so you have time.
Thank you, Anastasia. I don't know, Fola, if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, just a bit. Anastasia said everything quite well, but for me personally, the Laidlaw experience has been incredible. It's been very rewarding. With the Place Alliance work, it was great to be part of something so relevant. And my involvement in the research actually led me to kind of further explore housing issues. And for my second year of my scholarship, I actually did some research on grassroots campaigns for the right to housing. So that Place Alliance research was really important in kind of sparking my interest in housing issues more broadly. And it was also really great to be involved in research as an undergraduate, but also kind of learning, being able to, go through planning documents and analyze them and understand how local authorities operate, which is something you learn in lectures and stuff in our course, but you don't really get the chance to really look through a planning document and that kind of stuff. So it was really valuable in that sense. And yeah, I really encourage anyone who's thinking about going into research or just interested in understanding like current issues in planning to really go for the scholarship. Yeah, thank you to Valentina and Matthew for all their support in doing the project.
Thank you so much, both. So just a couple of questions for the three of you before we wrap up this section. Brian, maybe you want to kick off. I just want to ask you what you value most about the undergraduate programs at the BSP.
I mean, I think two things, not really very academic based, but the first is how being based in London, it gives us a lot of opportunities to actually see things happen in real life. So this could be site visits or just going out in the field to observe and collect data, or just having guest lectures with people who are actually influencing all these urban changes in the environment. Those have been very beneficial to the education in the sense of giving us a clearer perspective of how things are actually like. And secondly, outside of learning, I think the undergraduates program is really a community that cares. So people from various years are always happy to hang out, help out. And we also have a very direct and transparent relationship with the planning office and academic staff, which I guess makes the whole journey so much more worthwhile. Yeah.
Thanks, Brian. Fola, will you just say, from your perspective, what's been the most interesting or exciting experience you've had during your time with us so far?
Yeah. Well, one of the most exciting was definitely I think there are fireworks going on around. One of the most exciting times was, of course, doing the research at Place Alliance, but something I really value in the BSP is how very open it is and how welcoming it is, and the staff are very enthusiastic about what they're teaching, and that's very clear, and that kind of that also influences the students as well. And I really love how broad the course is, and you can come from any kind of academic background and still be able to find at least one module where you can really apply your skills and your interests. I know I was quite worried starting the course because I had like geography and sociology A levels, and I was like, I don't know if I can do an urban planning, design and management course. But like citizen social change, for example, that was a module for me that was like my absolute favorite module, because I really got to apply my strengths and stuff like that. And I just love the fact that in the BSP, because that's such a welcoming community, you can get involved in research with staff. You can really just approach anyone you need to and get the support you need. And I'm really looking forward to, obviously it's quite sad to be leaving the BSP quite soon, but I think I've learned so much from my time here, like really, really invaluable things that I hope to take forward in any my future ventures.
Thank you, Fola. And I'll just finish with Anastasia, because you have just graduated, and I wonder if you might say a bit about what your plans are and what you hope to do in the future.
So since finishing studies in May, I have worked as an urban design assistant for a while, but currently I'm in the process of taking up a new role as a planning policy officer in one of the London local authorities, which is very exciting, and finally can actually take up some interesting projects. And as I believe the first one will be delivering a strategy for greening infrastructure in one of the London authorities. So yeah.
Thank you so much, the three of you. It's been a pleasure to have you here with me introducing the undergraduate programs tonight. I believe I'm handing over to Ben as the postgraduate tutor.
Great, thanks, Jess. So hi everyone, I'm Ben Clifford, Associate Professor and Lead for Postgraduate Education at the Bartlett School of Planning. The annual Expo obviously celebrates all parts of the BSP, but I'm particularly pleased to be able to highlight the work of our taught postgraduate students. This Expo looks at the work from the 2019-20 cohort. In 2019-20, we welcomed 338 new master students to the school, joining 11 different programs. The taught programs include the M-Plan City Planning, which is our 2-year full-time program, offering the opportunity to understand planning in the UK and international comparative context, including a work placement or study abroad. The MRes, Interdisciplinary Urban Design, which brings together the advancement of research skills with an understanding of the approaches to urban design from across our faculty and beyond. And then our 9 MSc programs, which you study full-time over a year, as is the UK tradition, or part-time 2 to 5 years. And these programs have all grown up around the research expertise of our staff, housing and city planning, infrastructure planning, appraisal and development, international planning, international real estate and planning, spatial planning, sustainable urbanism, transport and city planning, urban design and city planning, urban regeneration, which have all got their own section here in the virtual expo. I'd add this year, I'm delighted that we've added another new program to our list, the MSc Spatial Planning Degree Apprenticeship, delivering the knowledge and understanding from our existing MSc Spatial Planning in the framework of a degree apprenticeship, which also brings in to conversation workplace learning and allows the apprentices to become fully chartered town planners in 3 years, drawing down on the government's apprenticeship levy funding, which will hopefully allow an even wider diversity of students to be supported through a postgraduate education at the Bartlett to become members of the planning profession. Across all of our master's programs, students study a variety of modules, including more sort of theory-based inputs, which are often assessed individually, and more project-based and design-based inputs, which are often assessed through at least a component of group work, helping prepare built environment professionals able to work collaboratively. And the culmination of all of our programs is a major piece of student-led research. Time precludes us looking in detail at all the modules from all those 11 programs we were running last year, and the fantastic work that students produce on all of them. But if you look through this fantastic virtual expo in your own time, you'll be able to see a bit more detail about each of the programs in this area of the building, and examples of work from a module from each of the programs. For now, we're just going to look at 2 modules for postgrad education, and I'm delighted to be joined by three students, apologies, involved in producing some of the work that we're highlighting here in the expo. So firstly, we have the Urban Design Placemaking module, which is coordinated by Professor Matthew Carmona, and is a core module across 6 of our master's programs, including the MSc Urban Design and City Planning. And I'm joined by Alice and Hannah, who took the module in 2019-20. There's Alice, hopefully Hannah's with us as well.
Hello, good evening.
Welcome both. Alice, would you just like to sort of introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm actually a part-time student in urban design and city planning, and currently I'm in my final year. And so, yeah, so this was actually the first module that we kickstart for this MSc.
Thanks.
Hi, I am an MSc Urban Regeneration student, but I've just finished.
Great. And Alice, can you give us a bit of a sense of this module, sort of what it covered, what the key things you took away from learning?
Yeah, so the idea was to rethink or reimagine Popular through the development of a master plan, strategic master plan. So there were different, obviously, phases through the analysis of the site, which was really kind of interesting because Popular is really kind of an area of contrast, facing Canary Wharf, which is a very wealthy area, and it was very secluded also with kind of the road infrastructure in the area. So the analysis was really to try to understand and set up a vision for Popular as such, and then we actually worked based on this vision. We developed actually this design ambitions that were kind of structuring our approach throughout the master plan, the framework. And then after that, we have the 5 different pillars for the strategy. And through all of these different strategic pillars, we propose different interventions that were classified between minor and major interventions. So yeah, so it was a strategic piece, but also really down to the area and proposing real interventions, if I could say that. I don't know, Anna, if you have any anything to add to what we did in our approach.
I think the heart of this project was about overcoming those contrasts, as you've said, and there are both cultural contrasts between Canary Wharf and Poplar and physical contrasts, and our project tried to address both of those.
And Alice, what were the sort of key conclusions that you came to in your poster?
I think that, yeah, the key conclusion is that it was really interesting, like as we mentioned regarding like the site itself, to really try to to realize actually the impact of urban planning and development and how you can actually create secluded area. So how we can actually bypass this. So I think like really looking at the territory, but also like looking at all the cultural and the socioeconomical reality was also key to propose different interventions that were trying to solve this. Also, what was really interesting was also like the layered approach that we had, and all the design interventions that from small, like, you know, we had like a eel sanctuary, from very large interventions such as, you know, like a cricket stadium, for instance, were all like weaved into in structuring the area to make it a better place, I would say.
Thanks. And just reflecting a bit more generally across obviously you're still with us, but across your first year, how would you describe your sort of experience of studying the program in the Bartlett School of Planning?
It has been like a very tremendously positive, beneficial, and very rich experience. I think all the modules are very complementary, like a bit more like, you know, design led, and others that are more academic. So it really gives you like critical perspective and tools to also like approach what you learn, but also like, you know, as a professional, I would say, like how you actually consider yourself and the role that you could have in improving, I would say, places.
You've obviously completed now with us. How would you describe your experience studying the urban regeneration course with us?
I've absolutely loved it, and I'm super sad to finish. I enjoyed every single module I did. I found it gave me loads of different perspectives on issues that I face in my day-to-day job, and has also given me another set of tools, particularly the urban design module, which really benefits me in my professional life. So yeah, I'm very grateful for my time here.
Great, thanks. Thank you both for that. Really great to hear from you and hear what you've learned while you have been with us. Let's turn now to a different module. So we have the module Strategic Vision to Urban Plan, which is coordinated by my colleague Eleanor Basusi. And it's a core module for the MSc Spatial Planning Programme, which is the programme I personally coordinate. So always heavily invested in this one. And I'm joined by Molly. Hopefully Molly is with us. Great, Molly, welcome.
Hi.
The module in 2019-20. Do you introduce yourself a bit?
Yeah, so I'm Molly Purcell, and I've recently completed the Spatial Planning Master's course, specialising in urban sustainability. I guess just to give a brief overview of the Strategic Vision to Urban Planning module, as Ben said, it's one of the core spatial planning modules, and essentially in groups of 5, we were tasked with creating a neighbourhood plan for the Drummond Street Neighbourhood Forum. So as some of you might know, the Drummond Street neighbourhood area is situated right in the centre of the HS2 development site, and our skills as planners were really challenged by having to look at the needs of the local community versus the wider development pressures. So it really helps develop our plan making, problem solving, critical thinking skills, as well as being tasked with translating policy objectives into policies that actually meet the statutory requirements of the UK planning system. Another really interesting element of this course was that we received guest lectures as well that looked at neighbourhood planning from lots of different professional perspectives. So from planning consultants at Tybbalds gave us a lecture, from local authority, so from Camden Council and also from a critical academic perspective. Personally, and I know also from many of my peers on the course, this was really one of my favourite modules because it allowed us to have the freedom to put what we'd learned in the first term into practice, and sort of our first experience of actually having proper planning experience, and also having a planning experience that translates into the current context of remote working. This module was conducted in the second term, so all of the reports and the posters were also created remotely, and I have to extend a lot of gratitude to Elena and our tutor Michael for helping us adapt to remote learning, and the effort put in by the members of my group was really fantastic, and we were really proud of the poster and the report that we managed to produce.
So you can just talk us briefly through your poster and report. What were the kind of
yeah, so we so I don't know if you can see our poster there, but we started off by working with a working group notes that was created by the Drummond Street Neighbourhood Forum, and from that we sort of picked out key themes that then informed our 3 key policy objectives, and we also that in as well as site visits, and we also attended a meeting held by Camden Council with HS2, and also consolidated plans sort of on varying scales, so from the London plan to the local plans and the existing Euston area plan. We decided to focus on townscape, mobility and movement, and development management, and under each of our 3 key themes, we created policies, guidance and recommendations for those themes. And we also chose to specifically focus on the Maria Fidelis school site as a unique development opportunity area, and devise further objectives and policies under that. And then you can see at the bottom of our poster, we also created a development timeline. So we prioritized this based on things that we could do in the short term and with short-term priorities, and also where we'd most want to allocate CIL funding, and also we indicated who this would be delivered by. So for example, we thought that the creation of active hoardings, I mean, anyone who's walked around Euston Station completely boarded up around Drummond Street, so we thought that active hoardings should be a short-term recommendation of high priority that requires collaboration with the Neighbourhood Forum, Camden Council and HS2 developers. And also an additional thing for me that was great personally about this module, because my dissertation was focused on community engagement and entrepreneurial urban governance in the Euston and King's Cross area. It was actually almost like a networking opportunity for me, because I ended up conducting interviews with the Drummond Street Neighbourhood Forum, and they also work with Euston Town Bid, who they sort of directed me onto as well. So I thoroughly enjoyed this module.
Glad to hear, and there's a great deal of information summarised so clearly in that poster. I think I particularly like the timeline. Just lastly, how would you sort of sum up your experience across the MSc Spatial Planning?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I mean, I have a geography background, so I had done a few urban planning modules before, but just the amount that we were able to learn in such a short amount of time, I was really impressed with, and also the strong group work focus I really enjoyed with modules like this. I mean, it's been mentioned already, but the vast range of academic, professional and international backgrounds at the Bartlett meant that I really got to learn a lot from my peers, and also especially on the spatial planning course, because you're working, I mean, a lot of the people on the course are already part-time planners. So I really got to learn a lot from them and gain sort of a professional perspective from all of the things I was learning. So yeah, I'd really highly recommend it.
Thanks, Molly. That's great to hear, and thank you very much for your time today. So
thank you.
I hope that gives everyone a sense of the work by our fantastic master students at the BSP. And I think now I'm handing over to my colleague Yvonne Rydin in relation to PhDs.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm Yvonne Rydin. I'm the director of the BSP Research Degree Programme. We have a very vibrant research student community here, as you can see from their contributions to the BSP Expo. In total, we have 54 research students, 20 come from the UK or EU and 34 from elsewhere. 40 are studying full-time and 14 part-time. Our aim is for these students to complete their studies and submit their theses within 3 to 4 years, but one really should not underestimate what an achievement this is. Each research student devises their own research program under a project under the guidance of their supervisors. They undertake a coherent program of empirical research that typically extends over a year, and then they write this up in a thesis of some 100,000 words. Finally, they have to defend this thesis against tough questioning by 2 independent experts. The thesis has to demonstrate an original contribution to knowledge, and it is notable just how original the work of our research students is. We'll be hearing from some about their works in a few moments. But our BSP research students do much more than just work on their own projects. They're active in disseminating their research and building conversations about planning. They present at conferences and workshops around the world, even in the times of global pandemic, and they have built research networks within UCL. For example, several of our research students were involved in setting up the doctoral network on socially just planning with some help of funding from the faculty. This has run a series of seminars covering transport, regeneration, and public spaces, but also engaging with any research that addresses how planning can deliver positive social impact. Another notable example is the work of the BSP China Planning Research Group, which engages with scholars and practitioners of Chinese planning around the world and runs a series of events that our research students are active in. And individually, our research students have many personal achievements, from publishing papers in peer-reviewed journals early on in their careers, to winning internships with UK government departments, and also the opportunity to visit Yale University and liaise with academics there. They also work with our London communities through the Just Space Network, and one of our current students, Paul Moawad, is helping Beirut recover from the disastrous explosion of earlier this year. And on top of this, as Claudio said, they also assist with our teaching. You can browse the work of our research students in the BSP Expo on the wall that Valentina is showing you. But to give you a flavour of what they do, I'm now joined by Monica, Cristobal, and Demetrios. And we'll start with Monica Lopez Franco. Hello, Monica. Monica, are you there?
Hi. Yeah.
Hello, Monica. Could you please introduce yourself and your research topic a little bit?
Yes. Hi, everyone. So my name is Monica Lopez Franco. I come from Mexico, and I'm currently very close to submission, finishing the second draft of my thesis. And my research topic is the role of urban conservation frameworks in planning instruments for the historic centers of Mexico City and Guadalajara in Mexico, in order to promote social equality through housing, tenure, and access structures. And I've been doing this using discourse analysis framework to analyze policies, space, and rhetoric with interviewed groups to assess space as a representation of discourse and a site of argumentation to present discursive realities. And findings of my research suggest heritage conservation policies have had an important role in place commodification and exclusionary urban developments. So in that way, producing residential displacement processes.
And what would you say has been the most interesting or exciting experience that you've had during your time at BSP?
So for me, in my third year, I had the opportunity to go to ESOP, the Association of European Schools of Planning workshop. And I was able to discuss methodologies and research topics with early researchers, and then also with more experienced researchers. And that was such a rich set of discussions and exchanges to have at such an early stage. And I was able to bring those experiences back for my own research, but also for expanding other areas like the socially just planning network. So for me, it was just also like expanding my own views and who could I talk to and who would I want other people to talk to as well.
And going forward, how do you think your research might help inform planning practice?
So hopefully this will help to highlight the importance of discourse analysis as a planning methodology to support planning practice, but also policy making, and looking at it as a multi-layered approach concerned with spatial representations of language and opening critical discussions of context-based policymaking and implementation processes, hopefully to encourage better policies and practice.
Thank you very much, Monica.
Thank you.
We're now going to turn to Cristobal Diaz Martinez. Cristobal, are you there?
Yes. Hello, Yvonne.
Hi, Cristobal. Would you like to introduce yourself and your research topic?
Hi, my name is Cristobal Diaz Martinez. I'm from Santiago de Chile, and my research subject is segregation, housing informality, and housing policies, specifically property and rental subsidies in the last 10 years in a comparative study in Santiago and Valparaiso, the two biggest metropolitan areas of Chile. My research is at an early stage since I'm producing it, the first chapters on theory, methodology, and outlining the fieldwork that I will develop in 2021. My literature review has addressed the need to conduct comparative studies through a contextualization of the concept of segregation. The critical analysis of recent housing policies is required for today. Less families are accessing housing through subsidies, and there's an increasing informality in their housing strategies, overcrowding and self-built settlements as the most notorious phenomenon.
And what would you say has been the best experience so far that you've had?
The possibility of interacting and exchanging with researchers from different latitudes, and how pieces of theory and analysis can be revisited on my own work. Colleagues from Asia, Africa, and Latin America contribute with groundbreaking theories, interdisciplinary methodologies, and of course, options of collaboration between peers. The writing retreats and virtual academic meetings are now the most recent formats of collaboration. And the Bartlett, of course, promote these activities and stands out for a constructive environment. So it has been challenging, but collaborative times.
That's good to hear. I know it's early days yet. You haven't even started your empirical phase of your research, but potentially, how do you think your work would contribute to better planning practice?
Well, yes, through the consideration of informality as one of the main constituents of urban development and housing production in Chile. The previews will allow to formalize and reconvert informal settlements instead of eradicating them, and by that, destroying family social networks. Theoretical contributions regarding contextualized segregation come from UCL academics. The importance of informality comes from Latin American recent scholarship, and these topics are the core of my research interest. In Chile, we will have to face the increasing material poverty after this year, and it will be a challenge for housing policies in a context of a new constitution debate, post-pandemic, and economic crisis. More specifically, how to provide well-located housing units, or even reconceptualizing housing production, considering the social capital that some segregated areas might build by themselves, will be a major challenge. And that's the reason why I'm interested in how informality is produced in both cities. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Cristobal. And lastly, we're going to talk to Dimitrios Panayotopoulos Triros, who I hope is out there.
Hello.
Hello, Dimitrios. Could you also introduce yourself and your research?
Yes, of course. So I'm Greek, and I completed my PhD in September 2020, so just a couple of months ago. It looked at areas described as urban voids in post-industrial environments. So more specifically, I focused on an extensive derelict industrial area located in the city of Athens in Greece, and I explored its role within the urban environment and investigated the perception of such spaces that are common, but not well articulated and hence poorly managed. And I found that contrary to their broad conceptualization, urban voids are dynamic entities. And unfortunately, the way that planning is currently formalized is not appropriate always to fully grasp their condition. Now, currently, after my PhD, my research focuses mainly on urban manufacturing in London and in Europe, the nature of suburban areas, and the application of urban metabolism principles through planning and urban design.
Thank you. And how would you reflect on your time as a research student at BSP? What were the particularly interesting elements within that?
Yeah, I think the experience at the BSP was absolutely fantastic. It was as a community of PhD students, the community of PhD students was very tight, so that helped a lot with the process of research. And then during research, I think fieldwork was for me the most exciting part of it. It was a productive moment, but also a learning environment. So it gave me the chance to explore and experience really the areas that I was describing. But most importantly, I think it allowed me to speak about my thoughts, my research topic, with people from very different backgrounds. So with locals, with planners, and academics, and policymakers. And possibly, I mean, possibly as expected, they all held very different views, but their views kind of challenged my own ideas, my own conceptions of the areas, and the challenges that were linked to it, but also the way that planning works. So it kind of opened my eyes to a broad range of considerations I had never really thought of.
And now you've completed, how do you see your work as potentially impacting planning practice?
Well, I think the interesting thing that came out of the case study was that there is often a discord between the perceived issues and the applied kind of planning tools. And the aspirations and aims set by the planning system are seldom fulfilled because the tools in place are not always capable of dealing with the complexity of urban voids. And so I found that when it comes to these places, planning as a discipline and a profession as well kind of perpetuates a negative understanding of these areas sometimes. It equates them to failures very often, which eventually skews decision-making towards specific decisions and actions, which are not always the optimal to kind of answer the challenges that these spaces have. And so I think it's important for planning as a discipline and a practice, again, to be able to reflect on the full dimensions of an area, acknowledge the different viewpoints, and consider also alternative planning tools to eventually propose more effective solutions.
Thank you very much, Demetrios, and thanks indeed to all three of our research students speaking today. You can hear longer interviews with Demetrios, Cristobal and Monica about their research in the autumn series of BSP podcasts. The one with Demetrios is already available, and the other two will be coming on stream later in November and December. These podcasts can be found via the BSP website, or you can just search for BSP Planning Podcast. And there you'll also find podcasts with alumni and with my colleagues talking about their research. Thanks very much. And now over to Pablo, who will be moderating the Q&A session.
Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you to all the PhD students, the master's students, and the undergraduate students that have presented their amazing work. So I wanted to, first of all, present the catalogue of the exhibition that Valentina is slowly going towards the plinth. There is the catalogue. You can see it there in the middle of the exhibition. So you can download the catalogue. I mean, you can browse it in ISU, which Valentina is just opening right now, or you can download it from our website. It's available at the same website as the Expo. I think this is the third year that we do a catalogue And so this is the third edition of the catalog, and it takes a sample of the expo. So it doesn't include all the work on the expo, but a smaller sample. And it's a periodic publication that we edit at the Bartlett School of Planning. It's always designed by one of our students. So we always pick one of our students to design the catalog. This year it was designed by students from the Masters in Urban Design and City Planning, Matt Ferrazzi. And he's done a great job, as you can see here, a very well-designed catalog that brings together the undergraduate programs, the postgraduate programs, the PhD, the PhD works that you've been just seen in the wall, and also the research that is produced at the Bartlett School of Planning, which you can see also in the octagon. In the octagon, there are a few posters that show the research that is produced, a summary of the research that is produced at the Bartlett School of Planning, a sample of it, and then also you can see a pop-up library with different books, some of them open access that you can click and download for free. And some of them they'll direct you to the website of the publisher. Yeah, but here Valentina is kind of like pointing at books. This one, for example, is open access, so you can download it for free from the UCL Press website. And so yeah, now when Valentina stops sharing the screen, I'll show you the physical printed catalog, which is also available here. Let me see, because it's kind of like the Biltro background is kind of like it's kind of like hiding it, but it's here is the physical catalog that will be available as soon as Central House is open again. Will be available for collection at the Bartlett School of Planning. So we've printed many copies that you will be able to collect, and they will be also available in UCL open days and so on. So whenever we're back open in our building, that is just here behind me, we will be delivering. I mean, you can come and collect the catalog. I've seen that there's a couple of questions in the box. One question which is very pertinent today by an anonymous attendee is asking, which are two questions in one. Do you think that you're seeing ideas on urban planning change in response to COVID? And then the second part of the question is, has your teaching content changed in response to it? So I'm going to, I could probably start answering the question, and then I can, I mean, if some colleagues or some of the students want to add to that, please let me know, and I'll be happy to pass it to you. I mean, around the first part of the question, that you think you're seeing ideas on urban planning change in response to COVID. So I'm going to ask regarding to our students' work. So the pandemic started, or at least started in London, and the lockdown started just at the very end of the teaching period at UCL, of the term 2. So it started in March at UCL in London. And so in a way, the term itself did not have work around COVID, but we did have a few, I mean, quite a few dissertations and major research projects that address the issue of COVID, because or at least how cities were responding to COVID, because the students were, I mean, when all the pandemic started, students were just starting the dissertations and major research project. I can remember in particular, and so I'm going to mention the work of one of the students, Joan Hyun Cho, that she looked at how to transform neighborhoods in South Korea in response to COVID. So she looked at how to, in a way, make the neighborhoods more compact by transforming monofunctional residential neighborhoods into more hybrid neighborhoods that had co-working spaces in some of its common areas. So people, rather than working in self-isolation at home, they could work in the local neighborhood without the necessity to travel to work, and that would reduce travel between home and work. So that was one of the examples of the few dissertations that we had in response to COVID. I would say that most of the dissertations address it in certain ways, the responses to COVID, but this in particular, and a few of them in particular, look very specifically how cities would be transformed in the future to depend less on cars, so in a way to contribute to more environmentally friendly urbanism, but also to respond to the situation of the increase in working from home and avoid isolation. In regards to teaching, I mean, all of us have had to change the teaching mode of our and the teaching delivery of our programs. So we've had to make major changes for this present course 2020-2021 to all of our teaching. And this has been also an opportunity to rethink what we deliver. I mean, I can speak for my modules myself, but I think something that at least myself I'm making much more emphasis in my teaching is the importance of the social infrastructure, of having a strong and resilient social infrastructure in the city for when periods like lockdown or when for different kind of cities responses to pandemics, to climate crisis, or whenever these kind of like crises come, there are kind of like resilient social infrastructure that also protect everyone and protect also the most vulnerable population. I can bring an example of a short course that I taught in May, just when we were kind of like 2 months into the 2-3 months into the COVID crisis, that I worked in collaboration with in the course with a community organization in London that is called Granville Community Kitchen, that before the lockdown they provided free food every Friday, free dinners every Friday to all the residents of one of the state of South Kilburn State in Brent. And just after the since the beginning of lockdown, they've been providing food boxes, free food boxes to all across the neighborhood. So it demonstrate how this kind of like social infrastructure, having kind of like a community kitchen that has kind of like allotments with vegetables and fruits that provide free meals to residents and so on, how this kind of like social infrastructure become very important in COVID crisis. And this particular community organization have been, they're based on a community building in the London Borough of Brent, and this building has been under threat through a regeneration process that would reduce considerably the community space. So in a way, the regeneration processes, and I can see that one of the next questions is about regeneration processes, should take into account protecting these types of community infrastructure and making more space available for these community infrastructure, so cities become more resilient for this kind of like for this kind of situations. I can see that there's another. There was another, but I don't know if any of the other, if any of my colleagues or the students want to respond to this first question around the response to COVID in the city, or some of the students. Okay, no hands up or microphones on.
I will just jump in to say that it's been a massive issue, and I've been running weekly seminars on my second year module, the economics of cities and their regions, where one of the topics is looking at the structure of cities, how cities grow, agglomeration in cities, gentrification, suburbanization, all these processes, trying to understand why they happen. And every week the debate has come back to COVID, because it does seem to be a disruptor to a lot of these processes. And the students, I feel that it's actually a very exciting time to be a student in urban planning, because a lot of the established theories around agglomeration and things like can actually now be challenged in a different scenario. So I think it's intellectually very stimulating for the students to be engaging in this as a topic right now. That's what I will add.
Thank you. There was another question that was done in the chat box around urban by Stephen Boxall around urban regeneration, about how the concept has been, in a way, to a certain extent, hijacked by property developers, and to what extent we should reclaim the concept of urban regeneration, or should we use another one? And our head of department, Professor Claudio Magalhaes, was responded to the question. Let me just read Claudio's response to the question. He was saying regeneration originally meant an intervention in an urban area to help solve economic, social, physical, and environmental problems that markets could not do, especially because it required a logic that was different from the market logic of profitability. I think the word can and should be reclaimed. I will often include development, but the market logic of property development should be subsumed under a logic of common good. I think that can happen, and we hopefully are training and inspiring students to do just that. I can see that Stephen Boxall have responded. Thanks, Claudia. I agree with every word of your reply. However, we also need to bridge the time between now and where your students are in positions of power to insist that how we do regeneration. You academics are also doing their best to try to get proper regeneration now. So I think that's actually Stephen's comment. I think it's also very, very important. I think one of our I consider that for me as a lecturer, that one of in urban design, one of our roles in university is also how to train students to achieve more just cities, particularly when they go then and work for local authorities, property developers, planning consultancies, urban design practices. And I think I know that from many of the students are working in these areas now, that we are doing a good job on that, but it's also something that that we need to build little by little. And it's true that there might be a gap on to what extent these students achieve a decision-making position. As Stephen is also pointing it here, I think that at the Bartlett School of Planning, as researchers as well, we're doing a job on reclaiming the term regeneration. I think in my case, for example, I've been doing research on social housing regeneration, and what sometimes is claimed as social housing regeneration, in many cases, or what developers and local authorities claim as regeneration, in many cases is actually demolition and redevelopment, whereas regeneration should, by definition, it should look at what is there, rather than demolishing in many cases, or in some cases ignoring the residents. So I think that there's some good examples of collaboration between scholars and universities on redefining concepts, which I think, scholars and communities. So for example, the collaboration with Just Space that we have at the Bartlett School of Planning, in redefining concepts, because I think our role as scholars is also redefine concepts. And if we do this redefinition of concepts in collaboration with communities, I think we can probably do a good job in working out these concepts. And the work we do in collaboration with Just Space is an example of that. One of the books there in the library, which is titled Community-Led Regeneration, is precisely a collaboration that my colleague Daniel Fitzpatrick and I did in collaboration with Just Space, and we precisely look at how to redefine this concept of regeneration. I don't know if any of my colleagues want to chip in on that, on the issue around redefining regeneration. Claudia has already responded. I don't know if any other would like to respond. Okay, maybe we can move to another question, which is by Abdelkawi Abdu, which is very specific about complex systems. It says within the context of complex systems and considering self-similarities observed at different scales, to what extent can we utilize urban planning principles to provide insight into better building design and vice versa? I don't know if anyone from my colleague is very specific. I would say probably goes into the topic of our colleague Stephen Marshall, I would say, who is not here. So I don't know if other of our colleagues maybe want to go for that question, or any of the students maybe that might have worked on some similarity and complex systems. Okay, so there's no answer for this one, but I don't know if the question was for any of the specific works that have been presented here. But I would recommend, in terms of complex systems, there's a colleague of us that did a book, Professor Stephen Marshall, that is called Design and Evolution, which looks at issues around complex systems in terms of urban morphology and how and different types of issues, such as, for example, the relationship between nature and urban form, or issues or the relationship between fractals and urban form. So for the person that has asked this question, I would recommend to have a look at the work of Stephen Marshall if you want to know more about complex systems. Okay, so I don't see more questions going around. Are there more questions, or do other colleagues want to comment? Colleagues or students want to comment anything? Okay, so I'll leave it here. I'll remind you to download the catalog, which is here with me. You can download it from the website of the Bartlett School of Planning and the Expo. The Expo will be permanently there, the virtual Expo, so you can browse it on your own time. My colleague Valentina has been going through it at different times. Sorry if sometimes it has been a bit clunky. I think that having Zoom and the Expo at the same time gets a lot of broadband, and sometimes it has been clunky, but if you open it on your own leisure at home, you'll have the opportunity to browse through every single piece of work that have done the undergraduate students, the postgraduate students, our PhD students, also with links to some of their papers and publications, and also the research that our colleagues have produced at the Bartlett School of Planning. Thank you, everyone, for attending and for staying with us this hour and a half. And we hope that we can see you soon in person. We hope that we can do the next Expo face-to-face, and we can raise a glass of Prosecco as usual. So thank you, everyone, and good night, and thanks for coming today.